Welcome to the Center Mid Philosopher. This episode is brought to you by Augustus Royale Fashion. Life's not black and white, it's gray, and gray is beautiful. Check out the brand below in the link. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this week we've got a very special guest with us, Jonathan Campbell, Greensboro legend, UNC Chapel Hill legend, MLS legend, MLS champion, and we're going to just talk about some current events in the world of soccer and hear a little bit more about your background and what you're doing now and how soccer has impacted your life and career and views on life. So, Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk to you guys a little bit about soccer. It's been more of a pastime now lately for me.
Well, it has for all of us, right? Unfortunately, it ends at some point for everybody. And, you and Rob Lovejoy and Logan and Grant and all these guys, from our neck of the woods, Wells, we just had on, Will Hessmer, made it bigger and better than I ever did. So congratulations to everything you achieved. But again, just, if we're at the water cooler right now talking soccer, I'd probably ask you, what do you think of the Berhalter rehire? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most excited you could possibly be about a U.S. men's soccer hire, where would you say you are on your excitement for him?
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, I caught up with Matt a little bit before this call and just telling him, I was like, hey, I just want to let you guys know, I don't actually follow soccer that much anymore.
Yeah.
It's been, quite a few years of being out of it, but also just even while in it, still didn't follow it too much, even prior to getting more serious into playing. So there's probably some people out there that haven't played and have a much stronger opinion than I do on it. But I think one perspective, obviously happy for a UNC person to retain that job. His coaching style, seeing him coach a little bit with Columbus, and he's a very tactical coach. And then, lastly, I think for me, it's hard, but maybe just some consistency could also be really good for the team. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure from an outsider's perspective if it's if we need new coaches or what, just kind of the quality of the product on the field. And I know it stems from the coach. But I think from a consistency standpoint, it's a good thing. But past that, I don't have a wild opinion on it.
Yeah. And, I don't either, interestingly. I mean, I give it a solid B. I say that I was super excited for when Berhalter was hired the first go round. I thought we performed really well in the World Cup, but I've been reading and listening to lots of podcasts and just lots of different opinions on it, and it just begets a lot of questions. One of which is, going into the 2026 World Cup, what would be your expectations or hopes that where do you think we ought to get to for you to go, yeah, all right, that we're starting to make some success here? Again, the answer could be as far as possible, but no, I mean, what's sort of the bare minimum for you?
I think round of 16 almost. Mm-hmm. I think just getting past the initial stage, the group stage, I think is a really important element for a lot of this. So it's tough. I think the draw can matter a lot, but I think just getting through the initial stage, I think right now is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think going into 2026, especially it being here, to me, it's quarters. I think it's winning the next, and that's my. If we don't do that, then I don't think it has been a success. Yeah, I'm disappointed. Yeah, because we've got to start making strides. It can't just be group stage. And I think, given this last World Cup, I was okay with it, and that was a really tough break drawing Holland. There were a lot. Yeah. but I think we got to get to quarterfinals, and then from there we're starting to go. It's hard because like I was thinking about just the sheer math of it and this complexity of soccer. There's 25, 30 teams in the world that won't expect to be in the semis, and that's just a mathematical impossibility. And it's not like March Madness where it happens every year and it's like, whatever. It's a lot of momentum built up to that every 4 years, and it's just not going to happen for everybody. But given that it's here, given that we've got, we could debate whether this is the golden generation or whether it was Donovan, Beasley, John O'Brien, which I actually sort of think it was those guys. However, we're really, really good right now, as good as we may, have ever been. I think we got to look beyond group stage as the bare minimum. But, I'm with you. And your answer is a good one because we're all kind of right in that tweener stage. And the Messi going to Inter Miami, again, someone such as yourself that's hard charging right out of Darden Business School at UVA, which congratulations on that, by the way. And, really leading it in the world of finance. You don't have a lot of time for much of anything, but how much, will Messi get you to tune in a lot more often? Will you go, no, I'm going to try to catch some games now? How excited are you on Messi joining?
I feel like, still, the fact is you could have watched Messi beforehand, right? Mm-hmm. So, for me, maybe it's live games. I think that could be a big difference. And my brother immediately texts me. He's like, okay, what are the chances I can get tickets, through one of your friends for the, Charlotte-Miami game? Mm-hmm. I think it was probably in Charlotte kind of near the end of the season. And you see the effect where it was, the stats are like, it was $45 a ticket. Now, the minimum's, $450. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that came back down a little bit from there, but I think, for me, if I were choosing to watch games, which I don't watch that often, but I think this is just kind of a nature of what was on when I was younger, but I would just immediately tune in. And if there was a game, it was probably Manchester United. Mm-hmm. I did that a couple times growing up, and so I just became I kind of followed Manchester United.
Yeah, me too.
Not much past that. Mm-hmm. Not too many reasons beyond that. They were great back in the day, so quality of play was also a big element, but that wasn't why I chose it necessarily. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it, to me, it's not going to change whether I'm tuning into the games. I think it will be interesting to see, him matching up against MLS players just on the field. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that it also brings the in-person element. And I know a lot of viewership changes, with eyeballs, and that can drive a lot of the media revenue. But I think in-person could be a huge factor, and you hope it drives brand loyalty. So I'm actually, it's interesting. I haven't looked into it too much, but I work in our tech and media group, and in that we look at sports teams. So we, try to help sell or advise very big teams, and we're on some of the biggest with soccer, but also NFL and some other leagues. And so, first thing I'm looking at is what type of contract does he have? And it's really interesting to see where he kind of leaned in on, and I think he's getting a cut of broadcasting mm-hmm. rights. I'm sure he got an equity part in mm-hmm. Miami. When the Beckham happened, he got rights to a future team. So just kind of seeing how he also, I think, is aligning to the future of MLS is actually a really interesting take.
That's a great point. And we as you and I discussed briefly, we just did an episode about private equity investment in sports, but obviously more specifically global soccer teams all over the world, and what they're looking for, what levers they're looking to pull, where do they see a lot of value. And a lot of them are in these, the streaming has completely upended the television world of soccer. And I was listening to boy, did Apple win. And that's a win-win-win for everyone, because I remember reading before the Messi thing was like, have there been rumblings that Apple has an out clause with MLS if they don't get a certain amount of subscriptions and that kind of thing? And people were starting to be like, oh my God, because, and again, so I'm going where I'm going with this back to you is, you touched on the broadcasting and the games and a piece of that. That was a massive win to kind of solidify that partnership because, these investors and the leagues and teams make it sounds like a large portion of their profits from television rights. And so to fortify that relationship with Apple, I think is massive. And you touched on it, that Messi kind of tapped into that. Was that the most interesting component of the deal he structured, or were there other pieces that you're like, that's interesting and telling about the future of the league?
I'm trying to think if I saw anything else with it, but, I think there was broadcasting rights with Miami that he kind of tapped into. I don't know if there was like league-wide stuff. The one I would be interested is if, and you might actually know, but if he got future rights to a team to develop one elsewhere. I don't know if he did that or if he is like fully aligning with Miami.
I don't know if he did either. There's still pieces of the deal that are kind of coming out. Like we're really in the middle of all of this still, but I think. I know. I mean, and this is where it's like, okay, if you have a future team, that diversifies where you're not attaching with Beckham anymore. But, you look at it and you're like, okay, what does this say? How long does he play beyond this? 2, 4 or 5 years? Mm-hmm.
But then long term, it's like, okay, I think you saw Ronaldo kind of struggle with it, but he went to, Saudi Arabia, right? And I think he, returned from there. And, maybe it wasn't the best situation for him and living situation. Mm-hmm. And so you see someone, Messi, I'm sure had an equal offer, Oh,
yeah, 1.6 billion, actually.
Yeah, and so you look at, okay, that's what he turned down, right? And, like, why? And you look at, like, okay, like, on a salary basis, there's no chance we gave him that much.
No.
So it's all these other things that you have to think on some level he sees comparative. Mm-hmm. It's probably never going to be 1.6 billion, mm-hmm. but he's at least thinking I can actually get somewhere close, or the quality of life that I'm living, but also like this future attachment that I'm going to make an investment mm-hmm. is very long term. Mm-hmm. So I think that actually really speaks volumes. And kind of like, okay, well, now he can recruit players, bring more players in, like, having Beckham, Messi in there, like, what type of quality can they bring in and who can they convince to come over?
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And I appreciate your great, fresh out of Darden mind on that. No, I mean, really, though, it is, that's what this kind of stuff that we're interested in. And it's the business components of it is almost as fascinating as anything else. And like, I appreciate you raising the fact that like, hey, if, it may not be Messi himself, but the quadrillion guys he's got and gals he's got in his corner advising him, they saw something. And what is it that he saw, and how that might be an indicator of growth, and where is that growth for the league, and so that's really cool. Well, I want to take it back to you a little bit more in your background, just for the listeners and viewers that aren't as familiar with you and your pedigree and accomplishments. Just kind of maybe could you just kind of give us the hey. This is how I got going. This is the clubs I played for, went from there, and the teams you played for in the MLS, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I'm sure the names have kind of evolved, but started with Greensboro Soccer Club. Maybe it was my 9th or 10th grade.
Me too.
They started academy, mm-hmm. and it was kind of at that point, like I wasn't sold on soccer yet, and the academy was in its first year, and so it was a really difficult time because I think people were traveling, so much for it, and it just wasn't built out yet. So I was convinced to kind of try, give that a try and play academy. through a coach that I had, Darren Powell, and
He was one of my old coaches too.
yeah, and he was great, and like
Mm-hmm.
he saw a lot of potential in me that I didn't really see at the time. Um, and so from there, played academy, and now it's North Carolina Fusion Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of my junior year really shot up, and probably grew into my body, but also just started practicing more, way more than I had previously. Got some youth national team call ups. Then was recruited to go to UNC, and kind of decided between UNC and UVA were kind of the two programs that it came down to.
Mm-hmm.
So I had visited UVA and now, went back for Darden. But from there, played 4 years at UNC and was drafted to Chicago Fire. Played there for 3 years, and then switched over to Seattle for my last year.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a lot of fun. Finished it, wasn't playing as much, but we won the championship there, which was awesome and a great kind of into the career. I was trialing with some other teams at that point, and COVID hit, so I saw that as the time to kind of pivot and go to an NBA program.
That's awesome. So you got to play at Chicago for a bit. Did you ever overlap with Logan there? He might not have been playing there, but was he coaching some at all?
Yeah, he was coaching.
Yeah.
So I did overlap with him, and just having someone that has kind of been in your shoes that you could really trust was great. His sage advice and someone I could always bounce things off of.
Yeah. So we played club together, and I played for Elmar and with him, and we had him on a couple weeks ago, and it was awesome.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah. So I'm just a blip on the radar for him. I'm hardly memorable, but he was definitely one of the best I ever played with for sure.
Great guy.
No, great guy, really major leader in that locker room. Well, and so, as you're kind of fresh off of, you weren't that long ago that you were playing professionally. And, one of the themes of this show is that how soccer has played a role influencing people in their careers and their relationships and their, family and, how they approach life. And I'm curious, how has soccer influenced you? And it's now that you're kind of embarking on this really big business career, and, what are some things that you've taken from your playing career that's helped you where you are now?
Yeah, there's a lot of and Darden will really try to teach you on how to pitch these things, but there's a lot of qualities that just sports in general teach you along the way, and you maybe don't realize it, but a lot of it is more generic things where it's hard work ethic. There's some other things where it's in today's world, I think being able to handle in the moment harsh critique on your work and really be able to perform in the moment is a very difficult element and characteristic that a lot of people kind of fail to have, I think, these days. And if your boss comes down on you, some people kind of crumble at that point. So I think that's actually a big element in sports that will help people transition into a more regular career. But I think the other thing is just what my normal is for practice and work ethic, and the work that I put into things is just, it becomes different than some other people, but you become very normalized to it. So it's been a tough transition, but working with Bank of America, and then also even at Darden now continuing it, I started up a wine company with one of my friends, best friends from Greensboro, and so that's now been going for a year, and it's been going great.
That's awesome.
And I think it's been a lot of fun. It's called Theo Leo, and that's been something on there. We try to have a whole outdoors element of giving back to the wildlife, and one thing I think that soccer helped solidify is just being outdoors, trying to stay healthy, being active, and like trying to always ground yourself in that and come back to it. Even working these intense jobs is a good, reminder.
Awesome. No, that's great. And you know, I'm curious, when you guys were when you were playing, did you guys ever get to play international teams? Like, we talked to Eddie and Logan and some of these guys about some wild times playing against teams from Mexico or Central America and that kind of thing. Did you have a chance to do any of that when you were in the MLS?
I was trying to think. I mean, the last one that I remember was in Seattle. We did play Borussia Dortmund,
Oh, wow.
which was, a great one. I hadn't been playing that much at the time, and gosh, I'm blanking on who was marking me, but I scored a header.
Nice.
It wasn't like a tall defender, but scored a header, and that was just a great moment. I'm sure they probably weren't even trying out there, but. That was a big highlight.
That's a pretty killer one. Yeah, scoring a header against Borussia Dortmund, I would take that all day. Well, that's awesome. Well, hey man, if it's cool with you, let's jump to the rapid fire questions. The fun. Is that
Okay.
cool with you?
Yeah, I don't know how rapid I'll be, but
No. These are it's pretty binary. I mean, you can't. It's one or the other. So it's kind of So Messi or Ronaldo?
I think I like watching Messi more.
Nice. In this, I've got a little age on you, but Messi or Maradona?
Maradona's warm-ups. Messi on the field.
There you go. Love it. Love it. Ronaldo or Ronaldo? So Cristiano versus El Fenomeno.
El Phenomenal.
Nice. Interesting. Just interestingly, I would have thought Cristiano would just slam that one. And it's actually been, I think, like the 4 or 5 last guests we've had have said El Fenomeno, interestingly.
I don't know if it's like age or, but I just growing up was like watching him World Cup time. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's
Yeah.
just, it's killer instinct.
Yeah, I mean, him and his peak was pretty unmatched. But then, he had a great career. But I mean, he hadn't played nearly as long as some of these guys playing now. But when he was at his best, he was unreal.
Yeah, I don't know what they do to keep the shape of their body these days. I mean, it's
Man.
incredible. Like, I think Ronaldo can just keep playing forever.
Yeah, I mean, God, like, I only played in my youth, but like, injuries. I mean, the fact that these guys aren't constantly hurt is just a miracle in itself,
Yeah.
But so how about Donovan or Dempsey?
I feel like Donovan,
Yeah, right on.
but yeah, Dempsey definitely had an edge to him.
Yeah. Who is your favorite player of all time?
As a center back, I'll go with growing up watching Vidic.
Nice, good one, very good one. He was great.
Yeah,
That's
a
good
beast.
one. Yeah, he was a beast. Sticking with the theme of the show, favorite center mid of all time?
Probably, I would go with Iniesta.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Very good one. And who's the best player you ever played with or against?
I mean, I would go with Basti. Having him come over and just like he was, he was not in his prime, but seeing his vision on the field was just incredible. He's light years ahead where he'd be like, "Oh, Jonathan, you passed it to me, who's wide open." I was like, "This is great, right? Like, I'm giving it Basti. There's no way he can complain."
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, "Jonathan, like, you should have seen that, like, 3 players beyond on the left side, we had a 2v1 overload. Like, you needed to switch it to the left side." And you're like, "Right, yeah, I should have seen that." Like,
Wow, that's unbelievable.
no shit.
So he would you guys would. That's incredible. That I mean, so how was he? I mean, how was he as a teammate? Was he a pretty cool guy? Or I mean, it sounds like he's German, so they critique, I guess.
I mean, he doesn't show it as much, but like, you know how Thomas Mueller is like a complete jokester?
Yeah.
Bassie's the same way. Like locker room pranks. Like he just tries to just joke around the entire time. And like, it's very funny because like when he switches into that element, he's like a kid. But
Wow.
then like on the field, it's like a complete 180,
Oh
you
yeah.
know? But so he was actually really, really interesting, and like that dynamic of bringing in these players that are, you know, big time legends. It I think it can be make or break, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some teams have struggled with that with who they bring in,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, he was great in the locker room, so it was phenomenal. And then trying to just like learn these little things from him was crazy. But I guess the other one I was going to say is playing against like huge admiration for David Villa.
Oh yeah.
You know, so, again, some people I think looked at it like I'm going to come over and collect my paycheck for 2 years and not probably ever do a workout. Um, this guy, like, I just remember, you know, we were almost like 20 yards up in their half. He's diving out of bounds, saving a header. And I'm like, okay, good. Like now, like, you know, can probably jog back, like it's switching the field. I mean, he's on a dead sprint going up the field, and I'm having to just like chase after him.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're like, this guy cares. You
Yeah.
know, like I think they were probably beating us 3-1, you know, at like half, and just at halftime, he's just like ripping into some players on like how they need to do this. And like, I mean, he did not settle for like subpar. So playing against, he was a great person to play against.
Yeah, I have a lot of admiration for him because he did not come over here and just kick it. I mean, he actually had some really good playing left in him, and he did come over
Yeah.
and play hard. And yeah, and I mean that's great. And I mean, just these anecdotes that someone like yourself can provide is just such a cool window into the inside world of on the field and in the locker room. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
So my favorite, perfect 11. Who you got? Combining any era, time, or who would you field?
Yeah. I guess we'll stick with some of the people that I had mentioned.
Sure.
But I don't know if my 11 will come out to a great team. But
right.
Individual pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think keeper will go with Buffon.
Sure.
I mean, he's been all-time legend. We'll go with Maldini, left back, and Vidic and Puyol as center backs. So I think that pairing would be good. I remember seeing Ferdinand and Vidic when I was growing up, and just a great duo back there. But we'll swap Puyol in. Right back, Danny Alves. So we'll get him up the field. And then I don't know how you feel with that. I've always liked when wingers kind of cut in on their dominant foot.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll go with Messi at right mid and Ronaldo at left mid.
I love it. Yeah, love it.
And then we'll go again, Manchester United, Paul Scholes.
Sure.
Midfield. Probably put Zidane in there. That was a big World Cup. Watching them, and then we'll stick with Iniesta, kind of attacking mid, and then maybe that's just my time in watching people. We'll go with Lewandowski as striker.
Nice, love it.
I think I fielded 11.
Yeah. That's a killer lineup, man. That's awesome. And then last question: what's your favorite jersey of all time?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. I might just go with like Italy's classic.
Sure.
And I feel like their blue is always great. Having their probably manager in just a navy suit.
Oh yeah.
Aside, I mean, it's just all time, and now people are in t-shirts. But
yeah,
pretty legendary situation there.
Oh yeah, you can never. They somehow reinvent the blue every time somehow, and even it's the same thing, but it's like still cool every time, and it's you just can't beat it. That's a great one.
I don't think I'm never really a fan of the alternative colors, or like when teams, just change.
Right.
It's like if Manchester United starts rocking some random blue, and you're like, don't know if I really buy it.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much. And you sold yourself short. You had some incredible insight to share, and really cool stories. Bastian Schweinsteiger, that's a topper. That's pretty killer. So thank you so much, man. And I'm honor and a pleasure. And thank you for coming on. Owe you big time. And maybe I'll cash in some favors and see if you can get all Basti to come on. I'm kidding. That'll never happen. But thank you. And
that'd be pretty good.
Yeah. Tell your friends. And good to have another G-Bro legend on. And I'm not a Greensboro legend, but you are. And thanks so much. And I'll let you get back to doing your M&A with sports teams globally.
That's what we're trying to do. But I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right, bud. Thank you so much.
With you all.
All right, man. Thank you. Take care.
Take care.